Good morning, Milledgeville. This is Isaiah Smith coming to you live with Waking Up with Thunder. This is the first Waking Up with Thunder of the semester, and I'm really excited to get started with you guys. This morning, I think, hope everyone's having a good morning. Hope everyone had a great summer who's tuning in bright and early this morning at 7:30. And I'm looking forward to a great semester, getting to talk to you guys. My show name is titled Monday Morning Sports Junkie. And that's what we're going to be talking. We're going to do a lot of sports, maybe some politics when it gets close to the election. But we're going to try to keep it lighthearted. We know it's Monday morning. Everybody's getting ready to getting back to work, back to school. And so we're going to try to have a little bit of fun here today. So I'm going to go ahead and start off. Going to get into something, familiar topic, some Georgia football. Kirby Smart's first year at the helm, off season, full of stuff. Quarterback issues. Nick Chubb, is he going to be ready to go? Sony Michel breaking the arm. And so it begs the question kind of, what can we expect in the first year? And so from a win standpoint and overall standpoint, I think 9 wins is pretty realistic. There's a bunch of 50-50 games on the schedule. You got, Tennessee between the hedges, Ole Miss. You got to go to Ole Miss, South Carolina, depending on how they start with Will Muschamp. They do have a dynamic dual-threat quarterback in, I can't remember his name, Lorenzo Nunez. And then you're at Florida in Jacksonville, considered a road game, but, that one's always in Jacksonville, always tough. Quarterback questions for Florida as well in their second year under Jim McElwain, the reigning SEC East champions. A lot of people have high hopes for the Gators this year, but you never can tell. A lot of people are predicting them to have a letdown year. Then Auburn, not sure where they'll be after a rather disappointing campaign last year. Jeremy Johnson was supposed to be, the next Cam Newton, supposed to be Cam Newton with a better arm, actually. And so, last year, me and Kyle, I think both on my previous show, 95.3, The Highlight, we both had high hopes for Auburn, thought they could compete with Bama, compete with LSU, but it just wasn't so for that team last year. So I'm interested to see, what happens with Auburn. They did get a dynamic junior college transfer. If you watched Last Chance U, you know his name, John Franklin III, very dynamic playmaker with his legs. Struggles with the arm at times, but in Auburn's offense, you don't need a lot of you don't need a lot of passing game. You just got to be a pretty good runner. If you're a good enough runner in Auburn's offense, you can make good things happen. They showed that with Nick Marshall, Cam Newton, and guys like that. And then Georgia Tech, rivalry game at the end of the year, always very, very tough to stop with that triple option attack. Very, very hard to contain what Paul Johnson does down in Atlanta. So those are some of the 50-50 games. If you want to be realistic, you can say, well, we may win half. But I think Georgia has a very good shot to win actually over half of these games. Tennessee between the hedges, kind of a revenge game there, I feel like. At Ole Miss, I'm going to go ahead and put that one in the L column. I think that one may end up being a loss with Chad Kelly down there. Such a dynamic playmaker for the Rebels down there. And then they do have questions, though, at the offensive line and at wide receiver after losing Laquan Treadwell and Laramie Tunsil to the draft this past year. And then Florida, another revenge game. I feel like a game last year I thought we were the better team in, but, Faton Bauta kind of got unfairly thrown to the wolves in that game and, could never really get a consistent run game going. Florida just kind of gashed us, had a couple of key mistakes in the special teams game, and it just kind of unraveled for the Dogs in Jacksonville. Kind of a low point for us, if you will, last year. And then, I think we get the win against Auburn and then Tech. Still a toss-up for me. Not sure what to make of Georgia Tech this year. Haven't heard a lot out of them, but you never hear a lot out of a team that runs triple option. So, going forward here a little bit, looking maybe at a smaller scale, the big questions for the season and the first game specifically, and this one is the one everyone's been talking about, around the SEC, around the nation, even if you follow NCAA football and Georgia football specifically, is the quarterback. Who is it? I read an article last week, I believe from Saturday Down South on Facebook, said that Eason is rumored to be getting the nod on Saturday, but there is still no official word from Kirby Smart. Obviously he'd want to keep that as big of a secret as he can, want to, try to make it as tough for North Carolina as possible to game plan for whatever they decide to do at that position. But if you do go with the freshman, go with Eason, they're not going to have much film other than high school tape anyway, and that's not very accurate. He's obviously hopefully made a bunch of strides in his game, gotten much, much better. And, he'll be able to maybe give a look that teams haven't seen. And then, if it is Bryce Ramsey, that's the same case. Haven't seen a lot of film on this guy. Haven't have heard about him. Was supposed to be kind of the next Tim Tebow, kind of a guy who was a very good dual threat. Had a huge arm, could do a lot of special things for a team, but just kind of never really materialized for him there under Mark Richt. And so, it'll be interesting to see who gets the nod. But, I'm with the contingent of fans that wants to see Jacob Eason get thrown out there in the first game. I want to see him take every snap, barring some setback. I want to see him, go out there and really try and dominate the game. And I want to see him, put it in the air early and often. I want to see him throw the ball down the field, look to get those receivers, get those big tight ends involved. He's got two great ones in Isaac Nauta and Jeb Blazevich. And I'm just really excited to see who is the quarterback, but I really do hope it's Eason. And then Nick Chubb's health. Will he be the same back he was the last 2 years? Or, will that knee where he tore and damaged a few ligaments in that knee in the Tennessee game last year, will that hamper him? Will he be able to, to bounce back and have the type of season like Todd Gurley did in his first pro season in the NFL? Will he bounce back and have a great year and be the same that he was, same back or a better back than he was the past couple of years, or will he kind of falter and slide back down the totem pole a little bit? Obviously coming into this season he would have been considered a Heisman favorite right there with Leonard Fournette, considered in the running for the best running back in the nation or in the SEC, definitely, maybe even in the nation, right there with Leonard Fournette, Christian McCaffrey, Dalvin Cook nationally. So that's definitely something interesting. I'm hoping we get to see him on Saturday, get to just see what the knee looks like. I don't expect a huge workload. There is plenty of depth at the running back position for Georgia. And so I hope that, he does get a few touches, gets to get back in the swing of things. It's always good to see a guy do that coming off of an injury like the one he suffered. And then wide receiver production. Can we get the receivers to help out quarterback and help the run game out? If we're minus Nick Chubb or he's not completely 100% but is good enough to play, can receivers, get in space, make plays, make it easy on the quarterback, give him some easy ones early, and then, when the defense steps up, if the run game's working, we can, let Eason go over the top, maybe gash him for a few big plays early. Obviously receiver production is something that Georgia struggled with the past couple years. Malcolm Mitchell was there, but, teams kind of locked in on him. And then there was never really anyone else to ease that pressure. And, often the run game got stifled, and then it just kind of turned into a series of unfortunate events with Grayson Lambert back there last year and whoever else may have been back there the past couple of seasons. So it will be a big indicator of success, I think, the wide receiver production, especially if we go with Eason. Some of those guys, you got to make some plays on balls that maybe aren't as well thrown as they should be, or, that are maybe a little off target, but you got to make plays for your young quarterback. It's part of the game. And, that's how highlights happen. A bad throw is the perfect opportunity to make a great highlight catch. And then the depth at the D-line, another big question. You don't have a ton of guys, not the depth that teams like Alabama, LSU, maybe, premier programs like that have at the defensive line. Definitely not the depth that Kirby had at Alabama when he was the defensive coordinator there. And, you're already minus one guy, Jonathan Ledbetter, the suspension over drugs and alcohol, I believe, over the summer. Never good to hear that. Hope he gets that worked out. But, the big question is, will we be able to control the trenches and, allow the secondary and the linebackers to get a pass rush? And will we be able to stop the run? That's going to be a big indicator of success, especially in the SEC, a very run-heavy, run-based conference. A conference that, obviously, you've heard the grown man football thing and all that whatnot. I'm not sure if that's something that you can put a lot of stock in right now, but you definitely have to be able to control the line of scrimmage at any level in any conference to be able to have a chance to win. But I think is more so true in the SEC, where the run game is so special for some teams, and it's such a big deal. And then the punting and kicking game. Is the punting game, is that Bryce Ramsey, or does Bryce Ramsey get the nod at quarterback and we go with someone else? Marshall Long, decommitted from Virginia Tech, coming in as a freshman. As a place kicker, but they were back in the summer looking at him to get some of the punting duties if Ramsey gets some time at quarterback or gets the split time or, wins the job outright, whatever the case is. And then, as far as the kicking, this sounds kind of scary. Rodrigo Blankenship and William Ham, two walk-ons, were the guys who were in contention back in the spring. Kirby Smart was very upbeat about the kicking situation, saying that it was easier to find a kicker through the walk-on process than maybe necessarily trying to sign a guy to high school, especially in the time that, he had to recruit in Athens. And so, hopefully we can find a gem there with one of those guys, get the next Marshall Morgan or Blair Walsh. one of those guys and break some records and do great things in the kicking game, but hopefully this has already been sorted out. Hopefully, not a lot of word from it because the kicking game is kind of undervalued in college football, but at the same time, it's so important. Special teams is 1/3 of the game, and you can easily win games and lose games because of the play of your special teams units. So you need to iron this out. You need to almost iron this out as quickly as your quarterback situation. It's scary going into, even midseason games when you have a gauntlet, you have, a stretch of games that's tough in the SEC, and you don't know, what the kicking game entails. Who's your kicker? Who can you rely on to make, easy field goals in games to, help cap off drives? And who can you rely on, to make even extra points? You've seen teams that's so bad where they just go for 2 every time because there's nobody that they, feel confident in that can get, the extra point through the uprights from the 3-yard line or whatever it is. So it's kind of scary. You want to have the kicking situation, ready to rock from really the get-go, honestly, because, that can be the difference in, it can be the difference in, 10-2 for Georgia, and difference in 10-2 and 8-4, honestly, is close to some of these games in the SEC are. You never get an off week. Top to bottom, I think the best conference in the nation, and, a missed, first quarter kick could, cost you in a 2-point game. You miss a 25-yarder early. You look, late in the game, you lose by 2, or at the end of the game, you lose by 2, and then you look back at that, field goal miss in the first quarter. Obviously, it's easy to do that, but you got to make the easy ones when they come to you. You can't pass up gimmies, and I think, the kicking game is an important part of the game for Georgia this upcoming season. Really looking forward to that. Obviously, hired Frank Beamer's son as the special teams coach. First time we've had a special teams coach in a while. Mark Richt used to handle the special teams duties all on his own. But, now we've got a new guy in there, obviously, and, he wants to make some changes. And so I'm really excited to see, what happens, bringing a little bit of Beamer ball maybe to Athens. If you know Frank Beamer from Virginia Tech, he was, a special teams guru, and hopefully some of that rubbed off on his son. And maybe we can see some of that magic in the special teams game in Athens this upcoming season. So, next question here, who should line up under center? Like I said earlier, Jacob Eason seems like the obvious guy. Looked good at G-Day. I was there, saw him firsthand. If you were there, the hype surrounding this kid. I mean, huge standing ovation when he walked out on the field. Completed his first pass. The stadium went crazy. Obviously, had some wrinkles. Missed a few obvious blitz pickups that I saw from the nosebleeds. But that being said, he is a freshman and he was out there. I wasn't. And, that's a huge difference. But I thought he did have the second best day at G-Day behind Bryce Ramsey. And, that being said, I'm not too picky. I don't think a lot of Dog fans are too picky about who starts as long as it's not Grayson Lambert. We know what he can do, and it's not necessary to beat that dead horse and really just see the mediocrity from the quarterback position again. Give another guy a chance. It's what we're saying. Give a guy a chance to be great and do great things for you. And I think Eason is that guy. He's a young guy, obviously a true freshman, learning on the fly, and I think that's what's best for him. Get him out there. Let him learn trial by fire, I guess, is the best method or the best way to describe that. And he already has a lot of the intangibles. He's clearly the future of the program. You wouldn't have brought him there. There wouldn't have been all the hype surrounding him. He wouldn't have got a standing ovation when he entered the game if fans and I think coaches too didn't believe that he could be the future of this program. So I think we need to let everybody on the national stage, 5:30 Saturday on ESPN, let the nation see what it's about, what the hype is about, why everybody was so excited when this kid committed to Georgia, and let's show our new toy off a little bit. I think that is that would be the best way to go to open this season, and then from there on out, just hope something special happens in his first year. Jamel Holloway is a name that I was not familiar with coming into today and this show, but he was the Oklahoma quarterback in 1985, and he is the only true freshman to lead his team to a national championship. So why not us in Georgia in 2016, 2017? Why not see if Jacob Eason can pull some magic out of a hat and maybe see if he can do some things and maybe have really a special year for the Dogs. And then, who's going to line up at tailback? We've already covered this one a little bit too. Nick Chubb says he'll be good to go. I think, he'll be good to go if he says he's good to go. Nick Chubb's a very determined guy. And, I don't think he's going to get his normal amount of touches, 20, 25, 30 touches. I don't think he'll get that immediately. But, obviously there's no Sony Michel, so the backup situation is probably going to be by committee as well. I think Brian Harrion may get some touches. He is considered the quicker back of the two freshman backs, him and Elijah Holyfield. But I think Brian Harrion may get some second-string touches. He's the most elusive back left in the backfield, and I think he'll kind of play the lightning role that Sony Michel played to Nick Chubb's Thunder. And also something I didn't think of last night when I was outlining the show, but something that could happen. You could see some Isaiah McKenzie back there. Isaiah McKenzie, human joystick, guy who's dynamic in the kick and punt return game, and he could possibly sneak in the backfield, get some touches. They already use him in the slot a good bit. Maybe see him on some jet sweep, some end around type stuff. Looking for Jim Chaney to really, really spice that offense up and do some things that maybe we haven't seen so much in the past couple years under Brian Schottenheimer and Mark Richt. And I think Holyfield's going to get touches. Obviously, Brendan Douglas will probably sneak back there and get a couple touches. Unfortunately, if you could see my face, got a little sigh going on now, but Brendan Douglas probably going to sneak back in there. But I think that you're going to see all four backs that are healthy. I think you're going to see Nick Chubb take 10, 15. If the game's close late and he's really feeling it in the zone, I think 20, maybe 25 carries. But I don't think the game plan won't be to get him that many carries. It'll be around 10 to 15 carries. Get him in there, let him run block or let him pass block a little bit. Let him get out in space and see if he can make a couple catches and just get back used to the rhythm, going through the motions, and then look for some of those other young guys to really get some touches. And if one of those guys finds a rhythm, I think they'll stick with him. Whether it is Brendan Douglas, who's been there for a while, or the freshman Brian Harrion, or Elijah Holyfield, I think they'll try to stick with one of those guys if they can find a rhythm. And then last little bit here, before we take a quick break, projected wins and losses for Georgia. Last year, me and Kyle, my partner on the show last year, we were, as we said, they got a chance to win it. They got a chance to win it all, get to the playoff, win it all. We thought, but that was before we knew the type of player that Grayson Lambert was. So realistically speaking, 9-3, 9 wins in Kirby's first year will be a success. Obviously, that's where you were last year and have been the past few years. No one wants to see 9-win seasons in Athens anymore. That's why they called for Mark Richt's head. But you got to start somewhere. Obviously Kirby's using part of a recruiting class that he assembled, another part of a class that was kind of assembled for him. And so you got to give him time. Got to give him time to get his guys in there, start his system, set it the way he wants to do it. And I think realistically 9-3 will be a successful season. I think your losses, like I said earlier, are going to come at Ole Miss, possibly Tennessee, and either Florida or Auburn, depending on the type of unit, the type of group Auburn is. So really excited to see what happens here, and excited to see how this season plays out in Athens. But that's just a quick preview. So we're going to take a very, very quick break, and I'll be right back with a little bit more Georgia Bulldogs football preview.
Pardon the interruption. And now it's time for a word from our sponsors.
How's it going, Bob Kittens and Milledgevilleans? Yes, it is Dr. Millie, and he is telling you that Buffington's presents the new Wake Up with Thunder show here at WGUR 95.3 The Noise. Buffington's is located in downtown Milledgeville at 120 West Hancock Street, and Buffington's can be reached at 478-414-1975.
Don't miss out on the top stories on campus. Copies of The Colonnade are available on campus every Wednesday. The Colonnade can be found online at gcsunade.com. Interested in reporting or covering a story? The Colonnade holds weekly pitch meetings on Wednesdays at 6:30 in the newspaper's office located in Maxwell Student Union.
Thank you again to all of our kind sponsors who keep us on the air. And now, here's some more music, only on WGUR 95.3 The Noise.
You're listening to WGUR 95.3 The Noise.
What's up, guys? I'm back. Right now I have a special guest in studio, Mr. Eric Gould. Eric, you want to say what's up to the people?
Absolutely. What's up? What's up?
So Eric's going to get back with us in just a minute, and we're going to do some college football pick'em. But first, I'm going to give you my keys to victory for the Georgia-North Carolina game. And the first one is, run. Whoever is in the backfield, whoever that is, make the job easy on the quarterback, get that run game established early, get it established, and run it often, run it at North Carolina, make them stop the run game, and whoever the quarterback is, it'll make it easy on them. Let those backs make plays, get them in space, whether that be on some tosses, some toss sweeps, or handing it to them up the gut, whatever the case is. Get those guys in space, let them make plays, let them do their thing, and then make the necessary plays at quarterback and wide receiver / tight end. You don't need 500 yards through the air from Jacob Eason or Bryce Ramsey, whatever the case is, but you do need a solid effort. You need a quarterback to kind of be a game manager here against North Carolina. Their defense is going to be pretty solid after their trip to the ACC championship last season. So, keep that defense honest, stretch the field vertically from time to time. And, it just kind of builds on my next point. Get those tight ends involved in the passing game. It'll take some pressure off the quarterback and wide receivers down the field. Help establish some intermediate rhythm. Maybe hit those guys for some big plays over the middle. Obviously it'll be the first game, so all the coverage schemes won't be 100% mapped out and ready to go. So, use those tight ends. You have two great ones, Jeb Blazevich, Isaac Nauta, the freshman coming in from IMG Academy. So, I think Jim Chaney's going to want to get those guys out there at the same time. Use some two tight end sets, maybe put both of those guys out in the slot or out wide. They both have big bodies, rangy guys, can get up, make catches in traffic. You saw that from Jeb Blazevich his freshman year. And that was Georgia's downfall, I feel like, a lot last year, was not using the tight ends, not using Blazevich in the way that they could have in Schottenheimer's offense. In a pro-style offense, you gotta use those tight ends and let them make it easy on the quarterback. So definitely help let those tight ends take some pressure off quarterbacks. And then, my final point for the game on Saturday, you gotta lock it down. You need to do a decent job at the line of scrimmage. Make them one-dimensional, whether that be, you can put 7 or 8 in the box and key on the run, or they're throwing it every play. Whatever the case is, got to make them one-dimensional. North Carolina uses, a little bit of that up-tempo spread type style, so you're probably going to see the quarterback runs. So you got to, make them one-dimensional, make them do something maybe they don't feel comfortable doing or maybe don't even want to do, and I think that's probably going to be throwing the ball. So you got to control that line of scrimmage. Then the D-line and the linebackers have to do a good enough job at run stopping. That's where that comes in. And then the secondary, they're the strength of this team. So we hopefully we can make them one-dimensional, make them throw the ball, make them really put it in the air more than they want to. The secondary can do what they do and be the strength of this team, be the backbone, and they're going to do a great job in coverage. Got a lot of guys back there who are veteran guys who can step in and do the job and make plays like you need them to. And I think it'll help give the front seven time to get to the quarterback. As good as that secondary is, you can leave them on an island. Quincy Mauger back there, different guys like that. They're comfortable on an island. They're comfortable by themselves, can, lock a guy down, can stay with whoever it is they need to cover. So, D-line and the linebackers get to the quarterback in the passing game. And I think that'll be, the last way that Georgia can get a win on Saturday. We got to do the things we need to do to get the win. It won't be easy. North Carolina's going to be fired up, motivated. They're a very, very good football team, I think. But I do think Georgia's a very, very good football team as well. They're going to have a great coach, and so hopefully, with these, I guess, game plan points, talking points, Kirby's going to have the same ones probably. Hopefully, with those, we can get this win. So we're going to take one more quick break, and then after the break, Eric's going to be back, and we're going to do some college football pick'em and preview some big matchups for this upcoming opening weekend.
Hello! We're the Radio Birds. You're listening to WGUR 95.3 FM, The Noise.com.
What's up, guys? We are back. I'm back with Mr. Eric Gould in the studio. Eric, you want to tell the people what's up?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm excited to be here.
All right, awesome. On this early Monday morning, it is just past the 8 o'clock hour, 8:02 even, if you will. And so now we're going to get into a little bit of college football pick'em. But first, if you are on Twitter and want to check this thing out live, want to see my beautiful smiling face in the morning, I am live on Periscope right now. It also should be streaming on my Twitter, but if you have Periscope, want to check it out, it's the same username as our Twitter handle at 953_highlight. So we're going to get into some top 25 matchups, absolutely loaded week one in college football this upcoming weekend. Eric, I'm excited for it. How about you?
Oh, I'm pumped. It's going to be a good weekend.
Yeah, definitely. I may not leave my couch Definitely going to be glued there on all day Saturday. Then Sunday you got a great game. Then we got another good one Monday. Going to try to be back here and tune in and catch that one Monday night at 8 o'clock. So, going to go ahead and start this thing off. Going to start off strong. Number 2 team in the land, Clemson Tigers, taking on the Auburn Tigers in Jordan-Hare Stadium in Auburn. So, Eric, who you got in that one?
I got Clemson winning that one, 21-31.
Yeah, definitely. I think Clemson's going to be too much for Auburn. Deshaun Watson, he's a Heisman candidate, the favorite for many, many people. I think he's going to throw for 225, run for 100 more. Going to cause Auburn, fits defensively, even though they are a very, very good defensive team. I'm going to take Clemson going away in that one. They're going to put a couple touchdowns up late to win that one going away 40-28. So next game, the Sunday night game, the nightcap, going to have to get back in Sunday night to catch that one at 7:30, I believe, on ESPN. Notre Dame, Texas. Notre Dame, a lot of people have them ranked really, really high in the preseason polls, number 10, I believe, and a couple even higher. But they're going to come out strong, obviously, but they're going to do this little flippy-floppy QB mess where, they go with Deshaun Kaiser and Malik Zaire because they both played well last year when one or the other got hurt. Ohio State, I feel like, proved that does not work. It just doesn't work. And, you got to have a guy. You got to pick your guy for continuity with the team. The guy's got to know who the number one is, who they can trust, who they can, look to in tough times and whatnot. So, Eric, who you taking in that one?
Yeah, Notre Dame is usually ranked fairly high. And so I've got them winning 28-24.
All right, this is where we're going to go ahead and disagree. Charlie Strong, very disappointing year last year. But, I think Charlie Strong, I'm going to throw the little pun in here, they're going to get Texas off to a strong start. And they're going to knock off the number 10 Irish. I'm thinking 38-33 after a late touchdown. They do have a new quarterback who's a little bit more equipped to run Charlie Strong's offense, runs a little bit of that spread type offense, a little pro-style spread, if you will, kind of like Urban Meyer up at Ohio State, and really tries to distribute the ball, get it around, and, hurt you in a bunch of different ways and use the speed. So I think Charlie Strong has a full recruiting class in, kind of on the hot seat, but not really. The state of that Texas program was really in kind of disrepair when he got there. So I think it's about time for him to start rebuilding that thing, turning things around. And I think he's going to start it off with a nice upset against Notre Dame Fighting Irish. So your late game on Saturday night, Alabama USC. Have no clue why this is the late game. But, Eric, who you got in that one?
I think this one's a no-brainer. I got Alabama, 35-17.
Yeah, I think USC is going to put up a fight. After all they went through last year, with Steve Sarkisian, guy who was really turning that program around. I mean, he really was doing good things there, but he had the bout with alcoholism. Eventually was dismissed. The interim head coach, can't think of his name right now, but the interim head coach is now the permanent head coach. He's the guy there. So, I think USC is going to put up as good of a fight as they can, but at the end of the day, I think Alabama's going to roll over USC, even though USC is improving. But Alabama's going to win that one going away 42-23. So last one here before we take a quick break. Oklahoma-Houston, I think one of the better games of the weekend. I'd almost rather see this one in the nightcap than Alabama-USC, to be honest with you. Oklahoma's ranked, I believe, 3rd. Houston is top 15. I think they may be ranked 15th, but they do have a lot of returning depth from a team who was very, very good in Tom Herman's first year down in Houston with the Cougars. So, returning the quarterback, obviously, who got a little bit of Heisman hype there at the beginning of the season. And a Houston team, I think, is very, very good. A lot of people picked them to be in the playoff, in the top 4. If they had won out, I think they may have had just as good a shot as anyone else. Oklahoma ended up making it with the one loss. There's an argument there that if Houston wins out and wins the conference, they're the team. They're it. But, got Oklahoma, a huge game to open the season this year. Eric, who you got in that one?
Yeah, that was a tough one for me, but I did ultimately take Houston winning 31-25.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go ahead and call the upset, too. I do think in this one's going to be an offensive shootout. I'm going to even be bold and say that between the two offenses, there will be at least 1,000 yards of total offense combined from both teams during the game. Houston loves to get out and go, be up-tempo. Oklahoma not necessarily loving to get out and be up-tempo as much, but they do have a little bit of a tempo game with Baker Mayfield, who is a seasoned quarterback, very, very good there in the backfield in Norman, Oklahoma. But I'm thinking Houston is going to feel upset-minded in week 1 behind their quarterback, and I think he is going to throw for 400, run for 100 more. And I think he's going to leave a late game-winning touchdown drive to put the Cougars ahead, and they're going to take that one 59-55. So we're going to take one quick break here. Don't move, though. Don't touch that dial, because Eric and I will be right back with a little bit more college football pick'em, and maybe a little bit more if I can talk him into staying a little longer. So don't move, and we'll be right back.
You're listening to WGUR 95.3 The Noise.
You're listening to WGUR 95.3 The Noise. The best music you'll find here, there, anywhere. WGUR 95.3 The Noise.
What's up, guys? We are back. We have a few more games to pick for you guys. And if you're wondering, by the way, after we do this segment, our results will be on Twitter. You can follow us. Give us a hard time if you want to about correct or incorrect predictions that we may or may not make. And so, looking forward here a little bit. Florida first game for this part. Florida State, Ole Miss. Who you got?
I got Ole Miss winning that one, 21-17.
Yeah, this is a Monday game. The Monday game at 8 o'clock. It will be an interesting matchup. Florida State has a great defense, but they're somewhat young on the perimeter, or not the perimeter, excuse me, in the secondary after having to replace Jalen Ramsey, who went very, very high in this past year's draft. And, they gotta stop Chad Kelly. He's a very dynamic playmaker. But Ole Miss has questions on the offensive line, questions with their wide receivers as well. Do have a lot of bright young talent, but still some questions nonetheless. And I think that Florida State defense is going to stand up. It is very, very improved. It's going to be very, very good. And I think they're going to stand up late in the red zone and get the win and beat Ole Miss 42-38. So next game here, UCLA, Texas A&M, two teams who I think kind of maybe have high expectations, high hopes coming into this year, really looking to take a leap forward and maybe that next step and get right on the edge, on the doorstep of national relevance. So who are you taking in that one?
Yeah, this one took a little while for me to actually pick, but I did end up picking A&M winning 24-17.
Myles Garrett, that A&M defense, they're going to put up a tough fight, I think. They're a much improved defense from 2 years ago when they had the Kenny Hill, that whole thing was going on. And, they're going to put up a tough fight, obviously. But I think the Bruins, they have a Heisman dark horse. I think Josh Rosen was actually in the conversation for much of the year last year until, UCLA started taking some losses. A lot of people had UCLA in their playoff for much of the year last year, early in the year. So I think Josh Rosen is going to put on a show in the second half and lead the Bruins over Texas A&M 45-40. So next game, what some people are calling the JV game to warm up for Saturday's huge slate. Thursday night, South Carolina, Vanderbilt, going to get your feet wet a little bit there with some SEC action. The greatest conference in the nation right now, undisputed, I believe, but that's another story for another day. South Carolina, Vanderbilt. Who you got?
Yeah, you're right. JV game. I'm gonna go Vandy 21-10.
Yeah, I think that I think I'm gonna disagree with that. I think the Muschamp era is gonna get underway in style in South Carolina. I think Lorenzo Nunez is gonna be a very dynamic playmaker once he gets some of the issues in the passing game that he has ironed out, get some of those wrinkles ironed out, and really gets things back. Gets things ironed out, becomes a more complete quarterback. I think he's going to run all over Vandy, and I think that South Carolina is going to get this win and give the Will Muschamp era a little bit of a boost there going in. They're going to win that one 38-21. So one last game here before we move on. UGA, North Carolina. My biggest game of the weekend for me, definitely got a lot riding on this one. Want to see what the Dogs do in Kirby's first year, his first official game. And so, Eric, who you got in that one?
Yeah, this one was tough because I didn't know what Georgia team would come out. And so, hoping that the good Georgia team would come out, I got them winning 42-38.
Yeah, I think I think we're gonna go with Easton to start that game. I hope we do anyway. And so, I think Easton's gonna do just enough with Terry Godwin, Isaac Nauta, Jeb Blazevich. In the passing game. I think the running game is going to carry the Dogs. I think Nick Chubb is going to come back in style and give them 125 on the ground. I think Brian Harrion, Elijah Holyfield are going to pick up some slack and maybe even get Brendan Douglas some touches in there. And I think the Dogs are going to get this win 31-21 behind a pretty strong day from their freshman quarterback and a very good day in Chubb's first game back. So those are our picks, guys. Check them out on Twitter if you missed part of them or missed any of them. And also don't forget we're live on Periscope as well right now. But we're going to take another quick break, and when we come back, I think Eric may be hanging around for another minute. We're going to talk about that AP poll and talk about the top 25 teams in the nation. So stick around. We'll be right back after these messages.
Y'all listening to WGUR 95.3 The Noise. The best music you'll find here, there, anywhere. WGUR 95.3 The Noise.
What's up, guys? We're back. We're still talking college football because, it starts Saturday, obviously, so we are really excited for that. I'm really excited for it. I know Eric's really excited for it. You probably won't be able to pry us off the couch on Saturday. So, we're going to talk a little bit more. We're going to talk the AP poll a little bit, top 25 preview. Did the AP get it correct, or did they mess up? Are some teams overrated, underrated? First of all, my thoughts. I think the 1 through 3 are 100% correct. Alabama, defending national champ. Clemson bringing back Heisman candidate, Heisman favorite Deshaun Watson, and then Oklahoma brings back a ton offensively. Baker Mayfield, leading the charge, and then Samaje Perine in the backfield. Also have another great back there. And so I think 1 through 3 is absolutely correct. Some people say Clemson should be the favorite because of Alabama's situation at quarterback. But when you look at what they've done historically at that position with Nick Saban, they haven't had great quarterbacks. I can't name you the last Alabama quarterback to start in the NFL or be a huge player in the NFL. But you just see those guys that come in, they manage the game, and they lean on the run game, lean on their weapons on the outside, lean on that defense, and it's kind of the Saban factor, if you will. That's why I think Alabama got the nod at number 1 for most people. But Eric, do you agree with that? Are you one of those people that says Clemson should be up there because they have a little bit more continuity at the quarterback position, or do you think they got it right in the first 3?
No, I think it's a good call. When you look at Alabama, yes, historically what they've done. But also, it's very difficult to put the defending national champion at something other than number 1.
Yeah, definitely. They have, the fact that they are the defending national champion. They have so many guys coming back to help defend that title. I think that speaks volumes, and it kind of does warrant them being in that top spot. But going down the poll, 4 through 10, talking next, LSU. I think LSU got a little snubbed a slight bit in the poll. I think Florida State is ranked number 4, but LSU I think should be number 4. They're bringing back, just about everything offensively and defensively. If not mistaken, I think they're bringing back, it's close to 20 starters on both sides of the ball, and they're bringing back Leonard Fournette, who for some people is the Heisman favorite. It will be his award to lose. Some people see it that way. I think LSU got snubbed, even though they are one spot out at number 5. I think that LSU deserves that nod at number 4, and then going to talk about this a little bit later, but LSU brought in a new defensive coordinator, going to have a little bit of a new scheme, and it's going to be a 3-4, actually, not the traditional 4-3, but this guy was a defensive coordinator, I believe, at Wisconsin, was at Utah State, had several great defenses up there with less talent. I think the things he could do with all the talent and quote-unquote SEC speed at LSU is he could be very, very, very scary going forward. So, I think LSU got snubbed a bit there. Then my 5 and 6 would be Florida State, Ohio State. Both bring back a lot, and I think either team could easily, or both teams could easily be there come January in the playoff looking to win another national title. And, for me at number 7, Stanford, Christian McCaffrey, 14 returning starters. What they do up there at Stanford is amazing considering the academic rigor that they have for that school and that, program to bring in the guys that they do, keep them there, keep them eligible, and just consistently produce a very good football team. So, Eric, what are your take on 4 through 7 right there?
Yeah, absolutely. I love Stanford where they are. I believe they could move up in the ranks as long as they don't lose that one game that they should win, which they seem to lose every year. I agree. Ohio State's in a good place. Not a huge fan of Ohio State, but nonetheless, they are a good, high-tempo team that I believe will do all right this season. I think these are gonna change in the coming weeks.
Yeah, obviously. It's gonna be a huge change. But if I think that Florida State and Ohio State definitely, along with Stanford, they're all in great positions. Anyone inside that top 10 is in a great position to make a move to climb the rankings, if you will, get up there by the time the college football playoff committee's rankings are put out in mid-October, I believe, whenever they come out. And so I think all these teams are in great positions right there. So looking forward, we're going to keep you going through the top 10, 7 through 10, or 8 through 10, excuse me. Michigan, Notre Dame, Tennessee. I don't think these teams belong in the top 10. They seem a bit overrated to me. These are the teams who, the past few years, it seems like they're always getting a lot of hype, getting a lot of they're the next great thing. They're the team of the future, and it just never really materializes for them. And so, not against this, not sure who I would put there in 8 through 10. I guess these teams are deserving of the spot, but it just feels like they're a bit overrated, and they're going to disappoint. I think these are the three teams most likely, to disappoint, even though Michigan does have Jabril Peppers, a very good cornerback, can also come down and play linebacker, play some safety, just all over that defense for him. He is a stud as a sophomore, true sophomore, so he's only going to get better. And I think Michigan gets a lot from Jim Harbaugh running his mouth. I mean, you're going to hear a little bit more about Jim Harbaugh later, my spiel on him. But I'm not a Jim Harbaugh fan with those stupid khakis and, trying to get Jordan Brand to endorse him in football. And it's just a publicity scheme. Just get out there, line up, and play football, man. That's all I want to see. But, Notre Dame, requirement for the committee to put them in some position they probably don't deserve. They have some talent, but I'm not sure what that defense is going to do. If you remember last year, Georgia Tech absolutely gashed them and was just a couple plays away from winning that game and taking them out of contention early. And we know what Georgia Tech was last year, and it wasn't very good. And Tennessee, Eric, what you got to tell them about Tennessee?
Yeah, Tennessee's still just 1 year away. They've been 1 year away for about the past 5 years, but this year they're only 1 year away. So I don't know if they're necessarily deserving of that position.
Yeah, since Butch Jones has been there since about his second or third year, Tennessee's been 1 year away. The analysts always say it, Tennessee, they're 1 year away. They're 1 year away. They've been 1 year away the past 3 years. So if you're a Georgia fan or a fan, Florida fan, anybody like that, you're counting on them still being 1 year away this year. And I think I don't know. I just don't know what they're going to do. Josh Dobbs, Jalen Hurd, Alvin Kamara in the backfield, solid group, but never can seem to pull it together. But it'll definitely be an interesting run going forward for this team. So Eric, looking a little bit forward, we still got about 30 minutes left here on the show.
Yep.
Who is your top four for the college football playoff?
Yeah, top four. I'm gonna say, I'm gonna keep Alabama in there. I think they'll lose one, and they'll have to work their way back up to the top. As many championships as they've won, the recruitment that they get, it's going to be very difficult to beat them anyway. I'm going to have Clemson in there as number 2. Clemson, a very good team, very consistent team as well. And then my 3 and 4 are, I'm going to go with Stanford. As long as they don't lose the game that they should win, I believe Stanford will be in the top 4 and in the playoffs. And as always, the overrated Notre Dame. I think their schedule will lead them right into the playoffs.
Yeah, not the greatest schedule out there, but I saw an article the other day actually from Bleacher Report that actually said why Notre Dame will not make the college football playoff. It was an article saying that you could go ahead and eliminate them from the playoffs. So we'll see about that definitely. For me, I'm taking Clemson number 1. I think they're going to be the ACC champs, undefeated regular season, going to run the table again and look to make some noise in that playoff. Number 2, I'm taking the LSU Tigers. I think they will be the one-loss SEC champion. They will beat Alabama, and Alabama will fall twice. They will fall once to LSU, and I'm going to go ahead and say Ole Miss is going to try to make it a three-peat and knock off the Crimson Tide once more for the 3rd year in a row. My 3rd team, I'm gonna go ahead and take Michigan there. I think Michigan has a shot. A lot of people say that Harbaugh's there. He's gonna have him there this year. Not so sure about that, but I think he has an outside shot if he can win that Big Ten. That's going to be very competitive with Michigan State, Ohio State, and different teams like that in there that are going to come to work. Iowa's going to come to work every day. Then my 4th team, I think this is the year of the mid-major in college football. I think you're going to get the perfect storm. I think the Pac-12 is going to cannibalize as it did this past year. I think the SEC is going to cannibalize a bit, going to get a one-loss champion in there. I think the ACC may cannibalize a little bit just because everything's so tightly compacted there early, aside from Clemson and Florida State and those premier programs. Maybe Miami coming in starting that second tier off. And I think the Big Ten is going to have some in-conference struggles, and I think that Big 12, the lack of a conference championship game, is going to hurt them. I think they will have a 1 or 2 loss champion, but the lack of a conference championship game is going to kill them. And I think the Houston Cougars are going to be in the college football playoff, the number 4 seed, ready to make some noise. I think it'll be the year of the mid-major, if you will, in college football. But, I do think I think it'll be their year under Tom Herman. But, honorable mention, Oklahoma, Tennessee, Ole Miss, Michigan State. Got to win your conference. Probably got to run the table. Then Ohio State and Bama are my other two kind of honorable mentions, if you will. Just got to win the conference. Win the conference, have 1 loss, you're probably in. So, with that being said, we're going to run out. We're going to take one quick break here and try to get back with just a bit more. We're going to be talking some good reads for you guys, some stuff that I found that I really enjoyed reading. Also, maybe even talk some Heisman hopefuls with you guys. So stick with us, and we'll be right back after these messages.
You're listening to WGUR 95.3 The Noise. The best music you'll find here, there, anywhere. WGUR 95.3 The Noise.
Pardon the interruption. And now, it's time for a word from our sponsors.
WGUR 95.3 The Noise is brought to you by RE/MAX Central Realty. RE/MAX Central Realty is located at 3006 Heritage Road, Suite A in Milledgeville, across from Walmart. For more information, you can reach Quay Fuller by phone at 478-452-7362. RE/MAX Central Realty is a proud sponsor of WGUR 95.3 The Noise.
The Waking Up with Thunder morning show is brought to you by the Georgia College Wesley Foundation, a collegiate campus ministry open to all students. Meetings for freshmen are held on Mondays at 7 p.m. in the Wesley House, located at 211 South Clark Street. Regular meetings are held on Wednesdays at 7:30 p.m. in the MSU Lounge underneath the Max.
Thank you again to all of our kind sponsors who keep us on the air. And now, here's some more music, only on WGUR 95.3 The Noise.
What's up, guys? We are back. We are going to be talking a little bit of the Heisman conversation. Obviously, it's very, very, very early in the season, but there's plenty of guys in the conversation. Obviously, there's the top tier, the second tier. As with anything, you can split guys into tiers. But for me, that top tier is going to be Leonard Fournette. A lot of guys think it was his award and he lost it last year, that Derrick Henry didn't win it. Leonard Fournette just lost it after that performance in the Bama game, which was really his only bad performance of the year if you look at it. And it was, Bama's defense was just something special. They were something serious last year. And so, Leonard Fournette, a lot of people have him back at the top, obviously. Deshaun Watson, I think, is going to be right there again. A very, very talented passer. Also can hurt you with his legs in multiple different ways. Doesn't like the mantra of being a dual threat quarterback. Wants to be known as a quarterback. That's for several reasons. But that aside, I think he is one of the best players in the nation, regardless of how he is mentioned and known. Then Christian McCaffrey, dynamic guy at Stanford, does a little bit of everything for the Stanford Cardinals. Works hard in the kick game, does a great job in the backfield, can catch it out of the backfield, can move into the slot, and make plays there. So, is this your top tier, Eric, or are you looking at some other guys there, or what are you thinking?
Well, I mean, when you look at it, these are the guys that are returning that were in the Heisman watch last year. So I'm going to say absolutely these are going to be my top tiers.
Yeah, definitely. Then after them, there's plenty more talent, that any team in the nation would probably be happy to have. Nick Chubb, Dalvin Cook, two guys who are coming back. A lot of people thought, Dalvin Cook may have gotten snubbed a little bit. I think he may have gotten snubbed a little bit, being left off that top-tier watch list, but didn't have the year that he had in his freshman season when they won the national title. But nonetheless, he's still a very dynamic runner in the backfield and does a lot for Florida State. Then Josh Rosen, the true sophomore quarterback out at UCLA. Kyle and I were very high on him last year early in the season. Thought he had a lot of the intangibles out there in Jim Mora's offense, the pro style, with some spread elements, sprinkled in as well. Then Jabril Peppers, the defensive back from Michigan, kind of had a very quiet year last year, but was all the same very, very good and very, very solid. Does a lot for that Michigan team out there in that secondary. And then J.T. Barrett, Baker Mayfield, Royce Freeman, a new name, who a back from Oregon. Some other guys I have in my second tier. And then there's always a freshman who gets thrown into the mix, as was Josh Rosen last year. Myles Garrett, another name that you can keep an eye out for on the defensive side of the ball as well from Texas A&M. He was there for a bit last year. And so you really never can tell, Eric, you got any more guys, or does that round out your list, or how you feeling about that?
I would say that rounds out my list.
All right, then. So moving forward just a little bit here, I'm going to go ahead and project my All-American team. I didn't get my partner here an outline in time, so he has no All-American team to project. So you're going to hear me talk about these guys a little bit more. First team, I'm just going to project first teams, and I'm just going to do skill positions on offense. Not going to worry about the guys in the trenches. Not that you're not important, but for time's sake here, we only got a few more minutes left, so we're going to talk skill positions for just a second. First team quarterback Deshaun Watson, obvious reasons there. Running backs I'm going Leonard Fournette. Christian McCaffrey, clearly I think the two best runners in the nation who are healthy at the start of the season. Nick Chubb has an argument. Dalvin Cook has an argument. Several other guys who have arguments as to why they should be there. Then my wide receivers, I'm going Juju Smith-Schuster, the speedster from USC, can absolutely fly, can break the defense open and do crazy things out there. Him and Adoree Jackson are going to be very hard to stop if they both get on the same side of the ball at the same time when they both play offense together. Then Calvin Ridley, another wide receiver from Alabama who had a stellar year last year en route to a national title, and I think he's going to try to do it again. And then Katie Cannon, wide receiver from Baylor, kind of hung out in Corey Coleman's shadow for a good bit last year, but really was a solid number 2, a solid B option out there for the Baylor Bears. And I think he's going to step into that number 1 role and just be a very good playmaker. Then at tight end, I'm going to O.J. Howard, a guy who I wanted the hometown Falcons to nab in the draft this year. Hoped he came out after winning the title, having such a huge effect in those 2 playoff games, and ended up staying for his senior year. Glad, hope he does well. Hope he has another great year, and so really looking forward to seeing what he can do there, and hoping he can have another great year. Then on the defensive side of the ball, defensive ends, Myles Garrett, Jonathan Allen. Myles Garrett out of A&M, Jonathan Allen from Alabama. Defensive tackles, Malik McDowell from Michigan State, just an absolute stud in the middle, really anchored that defense for a good bit last year. Carlos Watkins, defensive tackle from Clemson, another guy who's going to have a very, very profound effect on his team. Then looking at the linebackers, Raekwon McMillan, linebacker from Ohio State. Tim Williams, linebacker from Alabama, also a stud. Then, only have 2 linebackers because Jabril Peppers listed as a cornerback / linebacker, so can play either way there. So I'm going to let him take up those spots on the watch list for my watch list there. Jabril Peppers is a dynamic player, does a lot of great things for that Michigan defense and that secondary, and is a very good player. Then Adoree Jackson, he doubles as a cornerback, but also does a little bit of everything for USC, returns kicks, plays a little bit offensively, and does great things for the Trojans out there. And then Jamal Adams, safety from LSU, and then Derwin James, a guy that a lot of people last year were pegging and saying that he could be the next great safety from Florida State, like Jalen Ramsey, maybe better, but who knows. But definitely some guys there to keep an eye out for. Gonna have big years. Hope the best. Hope everybody stays healthy and really just puts on a show and gives their best effort, and you really get a chance to see these guys showcase their talents at the college football level where there's no money involved. It's just them playing the game, and they're doing it for the love of the game. So we're going to take one more quick break. We're going to come back. We're going to have some good reads, a new segment for you guys, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later. But don't worry, we have some Nirvana, Smells Like Teen Spirit, coming at you guys, and we'll be back in a minute.
You're listening to WGUR 95.3 The Noise.
What's up, guys? We're back. We got about 10 minutes left to talk with you guys. That last song was Smells Like Teen Spirit by Nirvana. So we're going to be talking a little bit, new segment I brought in this year called Good Reads. And, each week I'm just going to find some good articles off Bleacher Report, talk to you guys about them for a bit. If you want to check them out, I'll tweet them I'll put them on Twitter after the show, tweet the links to you guys, and you can check them out for yourself if you want to. And tweet me back, tell me what you thought about them, anything you guys find that you may want to hear me talk about, tag me in it, send it to me, tag me on Twitter at 953_highlight. Still using the same page from the old show, just with a different name. So, first of all, article on Bleacher Report about LSU's defensive coordinator. Call him the mad scientist. His name is Dave Aranda. I think he's going to turn this LSU defense, like I said earlier, into something serious. 3-4 scheme, looking to utilize a lot of stand-up athleticism of his guys. He calls his own defenses, which is something that's not very typical of defensive coordinators today. Top 10 defenses 2 of the last 3 years at Wisconsin, and he also led Utah State to a 3rd national ranking in total defense, which is impressive considering the athletes he would have had at those 2 schools. So, he's very unorthodox, and he creates havoc with those methods, and allows his guys to just play. Has 3 or 4 simple reads. Lets the guys make the read, determine that for themselves, and figure out what the best route is to go and make a play on the field. And that's just commendable, I think, of that guy to have that much faith in his players and let them do that. Then another article, ESPN Blue Bloods article. Agree mostly with it. Bama and Notre Dame are at the top. Alabama, lots of recent success. Notre Dame with a great all-time win percentage. And, some of the other schools that made the list, Ohio, USC, Oklahoma, all tied for number 1. Then Michigan, Texas, and Nebraska round out your top 8, which were your quote-unquote Blue Bloods. But I agree mostly with this. You could say LSU, Georgia, and Miami, which are the next 3 schools on the list, could deserve to be Blue Bloods, if you will. But the history compared to that of these schools compared to that top 8, there's somewhat of a drop off. Most of their success has been recent. Miami, back in the 80s and 90s. Georgia, back in the 80s, and then a few years ago, early 2000s and the 2010s and time like that. And then LSU as well. Success coming with the Les Miles era and then the Nick Saban era or in the early 2000s as well. So very good article. If you want to check that out, I'll tweet the link out to that as well. And then, finally here, it's not a read. It's a good watch. Last Chance U docuseries on Netflix. Very, very good. Just finished that up last week. Eric's currently watching it. He's still with us. Any football fan, if you like football at any level, check it out. Kind of gives you that Friday night high school football vibe with the community of that school, but also with the athleticism and talent of college athletes. So check that out. Set in Scuba, Mississippi, at East Mississippi Community College. It chronicles their season from last season. One of the premier JUCOs in the nation, probably the best junior college in the nation. Have a lot of D1 recruits that sign with major programs and go on and do big things. Chad Kelly, Bo Wallace, LeGarrette Blunt, John Franklin III, currently at Auburn, Ronald Ollie, currently at Nicholls State, DJ Law, currently at UAB. Some of the guys who I think are going to make big splashes, some of the main characters those last 3 of this past season. But, Chad Kelly, Bo Wallace, LeGarrette Blunt, names that everyone recognizes now. So they produce some premier talent, get it back to the D1 level. And, Eric, so what are you thinking about that? You're not done with it yet, correct?
Yeah, not quite. I have about 30 minutes left.
Okay, all right. So he's on the last episode. Have you what have you seen so far? Tell me what you've seen so far, so I don't ruin it.
Yeah, no, I've right before the game on the last episode. And
okay,
so
all right. So right before the game, so I won't spoil it for you, but it really changed the way I look at football. Lots of guys coming from troubled backgrounds, and just some things they don't know or don't have the support system that pushes them to do things. But Buddy Stevens, the head coach, really does a job and does a very good job at making sure these guys know that they're loved and that they have a support system, and he wants to see them succeed, which is the main thing that these athletes need to know. And it also chronicles the violence of the game of football. I mean, football's a violent game. I mean, and there's no other way around that. If you say I don't want my kid to play football, I can't argue with that. It's a violent game. It's a tough game. Very physically demanding, and also the way the NJCAA works its rankings is very different from the college football playoff. And it's basically beat your opponent as badly as possible, and if you want a shot at moving up in the rankings and playing for a national title, and that system really comes to a head at the end of this docuseries, if you will, and it really chronicles that, and maybe should push the NJCAA to make some changes to the way that they handle that, and maybe even see how that affects just players playing the game. But it also brought up the thought that we need to abandon this notion that football is this gentleman's game and guys shouldn't talk junk or have an occasional scuffle or do things like that. Football's a violent game, like I said earlier, and you can't stop that. You expect guys to try to tear each other's heads off between two whistles and then stop and shake hands and be good friends at the end of that. It's not going to happen. Roger Goodell, I'm talking to you. Stop with all these little petty rules about we can fine you, we can flag you 15 yards for saying certain things or doing certain things, and you can't make certain motions. Obviously there are certain things you shouldn't do, but you can't like the cutthroat gesture, can't do certain things, and when you score and things like that, that's garbage. Let these guys be who they are. Let them, because be who they are, because a lot of these guys, that is who they are. From the situations they're from, it's get or be got. And so, you're trying to sap the emotion out of these guys, out of the game. NFL, you hear the no fun league comments. So let's, Bryce Harper wants to make baseball fun again. Let's do ourselves a favor and make football fun again. Roger Goodell, Mark Emmert, stop making up rules as you go along in the NCAA. Let's make football fun again. But that's my 2 cents on that. Maybe next week Eric can be back and give us a little bit of chatter about what he thought of it after the last scene there. So we're gonna take one quick break, and you're gonna give you a little bit of a little bit more about WGUR, and when we come back, we'll have a few minutes left. We're gonna talk my all clown team. So I'll talk about that for just a minute when we get back after these messages.
We are WGUR 95.3, broadcasting live in Milledgeville, Georgia, and online at gcsuradio.com.
What up, guys? We're back. Got just a couple more minutes to be with you here on this Monday morning. So let me talk about my all-clown team here for a minute. What it is, guys who just say stuff, do things that is just absolutely outrageous over the course of a football season. We're going to build this team as the season progresses. We're going to try and build that, really make a complete roster out of this. Have some fun here. Various ways to qualify. If you're familiar with the Shaq and a Fool that Shaq does on whatever TNT when he announces games there, it's fun. So we're just gonna have a little fun here at the end of the show. Got a couple minutes to be with you. So my head coach already got that filled out. Mr. Jim Harbaugh, congratulations. You have earned a spot. We'll get your plaque in the mail toward the end of the year. Jim Harbaugh, like I said, with the Jordan stunt, all the talk, the chatter, getting into it with Jim Rome, several people. It's ridiculous. Come on, man. Just coach football. Put your 11 out there, your best 11. Line up against somebody else's best 11. At the end of 60 minutes, see what happens. And, if you win, great. If not, you know what you need to work on next week. Stop with all the chatter, the stunts. I know you're trying to stay relevant. Michigan wasn't a very relevant program until you got there. Come on, chill out, man. Colin Kaepernick is the next guy at quarterback for me. With his whole stunt about not standing during the national anthem, you don't have to respect the country, but you do need to realize no country is perfect. And so you need to stand up and respect the men and women who have served to give you the right to sit there and spout that ignorant babble about what you think. So, you need to stand up and respect those men and women, if nothing else. You don't have to respect the country. It is his right. I do agree with that. I may not agree with what he has to say, but I do agree. I will fight to the death for your right to say it. The Voltaire quote there, I agree with that. But don't disrespect those men and women who, put their lives on the line every day, have paid the ultimate sacrifice, are paying it right now and have in the past. Don't disrespect them for, who give you the right to sit there and say ignorant junk like you do. And then my cornerback, Josh Norman, with the Bebe Thomas, him and Demaryius Thomas last week, with their little feud they had going on. Demaryius Thomas kind of shut him down with the Super Bowl ring picture on Twitter, but Josh Norman's always talking. He's a guy, he's a scheme fit. He has to talk to stay relevant. I understand when guys do that. It makes sense. You got to, if you're that type of guy, that's you. But it just kind of, it gets on my nerves. It's always something with these guys. And so Josh Norman earns a cornerback spot. To all these guys, congratulations. We will get you your plaque in the mail. But yeah, that's just a little segment of what we have for you guys. But yeah, and we'll talk more about these guys obviously as the season goes on. But Colin Kaepernick and Josh Norman, two guys in the NFL who Colin Kaepernick recently decided to take a stand, but heard this morning on a couple people talking, saying, what's sitting down going to do about it? You're protesting racism, but find a different way. Find a way that's going to make you active, like Stephen A. Smith, LeBron, Carmelo, Dwayne Wade, going out, being involved in communities, doing things of that nature instead of just sitting. You're sitting. What are you going to solve other than, showing your ignorance, I guess. Josh Norman, scheme fit, got to talk to stay relevant. Whatever. It is what it is. He's been getting burned all preseason. Hope that keeps up in the regular season. Odell Beckham, if you're listening, have a day, big guy. I hope you go off. Josh Norman, never been my favorite player. Talked a little bit too much for me, and never really could back it up. Whatever the deal is. So that's about all we got for you today. Big shout out to Eric. Thanks for coming in, man. Giving me a hand today with the show, and you got anything last words you want to sign off with?
No, just have a great day.
All right, and one last thing for me, Mom, happy birthday today. It's my mom's birthday, so happy birthday to her. Hope she has a great day, and hope you guys have a great week, a great Monday. I will not be with you next Monday. It'll be Labor Day, so it'll be 2 weeks. We'll be talking a little bit more college football, obviously, maybe some pro football as that'll be underway, and then we'll even maybe have some additions to this all-clown team and other things like that. So this is Isaiah Smith. You're waking up with Thunder Monday Morning Sports Junkie, and I'm signing off. Hope you guys have a great week, and I'll talk to you guys in a couple weeks.
You know what's better than listening to WGUR 95.3 The Noise? Well, whenever I figure that out, I'll let you know. In the meantime, stick around and listen to your heart's content. WGUR 95.3